this is David Wales for sprint number 5. I think I finished everything again this week. So first things first, I took your comments from last week and I fixed my pair processor. So it was just a small getting rid of the break statement inside the collidable B-sphere versus group AABB test. So I just pulled that outside of the inner for loop, essentially, and then I could just get rid of the break. So small fix, but I did that. So I also changed the collidable. I changed it to an actual B-sphere at this point. Last week I was doing basically the same thing. I was just doing the calculations in here, and I don't really know why. So I just made it an actual B-sphere and just let the B-sphere update it. So that's for last week. This week, this is my height map that I was using. So I thought it was kind of cool, this little mountain thing. So show how everything works. Here we go. As you can see, clearly a mountain, and it seems to have done everything correctly. There's all the squares and all that. Show that I can change it. I have map 3. Oh, this is going to be huge because I set the height there. So that says test. I'll make it a little smaller so you can see. So if I just make it 10 high, it then is only that high, and you can see it spells out test as the as it was supposed to, given by the height map. So there's that. So now I'll change it back to the mountain so I can show off the actual collisions. So as you can see, below me is the boxes. I forgot to turn off this because, as I was going to say earlier, later I kind of hooked up my physics system a little bit, just see how everything works out in my system. But just to test it out, I'll put it back to normal. So as you can see, there's the squares following me based on the radius of the B-sphere, so it just takes the min and max and then just iterates through all of the cells and highlights them. Teal-ish if they aren't colliding with the B-sphere, otherwise yellow, and then if it goes through both of those, then if the actual collisions versus this OBB in this case versus this AABBs, then it turns red. So as you can see, so it turns yellow because the B-sphere is colliding with it. And then if I go a little bit further, nope, I just went down for some reason. There we go. So now, as you can see, my OBB is colliding with these 3. So those are red, while the others remain yellow or teal, depending on their status. I can keep on going forward, and there's red, there's red, there's red, there's red, red, red. So, seems to work there, and if I go down, you can also see it goes red wherever the OBB collides with the terrain. So, I believe I was able to get that correct, and everything seems to be generating correctly. So I'll go into my code now. So basically, this is just in the create terrain model. This was my code to generate the vertices, or vertices rather. So yeah, I mean, not much to say about these. It's just how I did it. It's how we're supposed to do it, I think. And then down here, I did the nested for loops to generate the triangles, and then this right here saves the min and max points for each cell. and then it goes down here, and now this is supposed to be gone, but save terrain model was just called here, and then it would do that. And then at the end, I would delete both of the lists of the vertices and the triangles. And then when I wanted to show something in the game, or when I wanted to use those, I suppose, in collidable, I would go here, and I would use the prune spheres, get min point and max point, and then I would show cells beneath on the terrain, and that's just called here, which would just transform the position given, so the collidable's position, into the terrain's world coordinates, or into terrain's coordinates, and then it would just iterate through the terrain that was viable, I guess. So it would go to the max here. This would represent the max indices for the cell, and then these would represent the min indices for the cell. And then it would just iterate through and just increase the min and max, these two, at every time. And then if it was on the terrain, essentially here, it would generate an AB, or it would make the ABB for that terrain cell, and then it would test collision against it, which is just down here, which this is the nestedness of it. So I just tested collision between the terrain's ABB, so that one cell's terrain, or that one cell's ABB, and the prune sphere. And if that collided, then it would go into the terrain ABB versus the collision strategy specified by the collidable that we are testing against, essentially. So then that would just, in tools, I just had to add that. That was basically just the same thing as the collidable, just instead of, I just didn't need to make this a collidable then. And then here, if that was true, then it would make it red. Otherwise, if it failed that test, it would make it yellow, and if it failed the first one with the prune sphere, then it would turn it the tealish color. So that seems to be working. Seems to be pretty decent. This was the one for just the single cell underneath me. It's the same code essentially as the multiple cells, but just a little bit no for loops or anything. And I think that's it for that. I suppose I should actually. I didn't show you the textures. So, not sure if you can see, but these are all multiple textures. If I go into my level and I reduce the quality immensely, you'll see it looks quite worse because it's just stretching one all over that thing. It's just one big texture at this point, but it looks nicer with the 25 and 25. So yeah, so that seems to be working. Now I wasn't able to really test anything from my engine this week. This terrain stuff really kind of stressed me, and with it being summer and everything, I've been long year of school, I've kind of started shutting down, but I'll make it. And then for my physics stuff, I did a little bit, as I kind of mentioned it earlier. I put it in here a little bit to see how everything would hook up with my system, and seems to do well. What I was showing earlier was here I just, instead of setting the position every frame, every time this would be there, I could just set the velocity, which then, if I pressed W, in this case that's what I hooked it up to, it will just continuously go forward. So that seems to work. Even if I turn around and everything, I'm still going that way. So that's where my velocity is at this point. Now if I press it again, I go that way and that way. Just an early little feature here, but I just wanted to make sure everything was kind of working all right, and it seems to be good. That's just in here. at this point it's a pretty simple system, obviously. Just same thing kind of as my attachables. My attachables is kind of like a test go at this, where I would modify the world matrix and the vectors for translation and such. And it seems to be doing well. Same kind of setup as everything else, the registers and all that. Same in the scene, it just creates the new physics manager and then updates all the registered physicsables. It sounds awful, but that's all I got for now. And then deletes here. So everything seems to be pretty decent with that. I've also obviously been doing some research as I get into the actual writing of the code portion, but that's all I have for this week. Hopefully I'll be able to get a lot more done this week, or this coming week, but we'll see. I'll see you in class today then. Have a good one.